Hi everyone, this is Lukas from Sidestream Auction Services Core Unit. I'm happy to give you today a brief demo on the current state of the Unified Auctions UI. By the way, it wasn't planned to have this recent downturns of the markets in order for us to give an update. Good or sad coincidence, I would say, however you want to frame it. Another quick disclaimer, this is a pre-recorded walkthrough, so please hold your questions to the end and we're happy to answer them then. So let's get right into it. So what you can see here is our landing page. During our work on the auctions, we figured that there's a lot of tools and services out there that are related to the auctions and that all provide relevant information. So we started to collect and list them here on this page, so that this page might become an entry point to the broad realm of auctions in the future. The list is filtered based on the auction type that you're selecting here at the top. Since we focused our work on the collateral auctions for now, I have selected that one. And without further ado, I want to jump directly into the collateral auctions portal that we have built. As a quick recap for those who are not familiar with UI yet, we are building with a focus on accessibility, both in terms of the UI itself, but also with regard to our code base. One of the design decisions that we took back in the day was to have this narration-based flow that provides relevant context and allows the user to read basically from top to bottom in order to understand what is actually going on and what this whole thing is about. The experienced user, of course, can always switch to the expert mode via this toggle here at the top, hiding all of this extra context information. But I will stick to the explanation-based mode for now. Core piece of this page is the table with active auctions that allows to participate or interact with one particular auction. Don't get confused by all of these auctions down here that basically need a restart. This is due to the fact that I am currently on Girdly for this demo purposes. One of the principles in our building process is to never leave the user in the dark. A small example for that is this small indicator here at the top of the table that informs when the table was updated last, since we are refetching auction information every 30 seconds. Now let's have a look into one particular auction. It is provided via this auction page here. At the top, you have a table with all relevant auction information, like when the auction ends, the auction amount, the current auction price. Also, this little spinner here that gives an information on when the next price drop is going to happen and what the next price drop is going to be. And then you have a couple of more information on this particular auction, but I don't want to go into detail of each row right now. The important part here is that the user now can decide on how to interact with this auction. We provide both ways, either bringing own funds to the table and bid on the collateral with own DAI, or via instant settling without any capital requirements, making use of the flash loan based auction participation. This is the flow that we introduced first. Nevertheless, I want to give a quick update on the improvements and adjustments we made to this one. We optimized this final transaction page in the past to provide as much information as possible to the user and also for a user to make an informed decision about the auction participation. Again, what we want to prevent is to leave the user in the dark of what's actually going on. So let's quickly have a look on some of the information that is displayed here in the table at the top. Again, you can see this price spinner that we have seen on the previous page already. Then we display the price on Uniswap, since we're finally aiming to exploit an arbitrage opportunity once the auction price falls below market price. Now, don't be confused about this very low ETH price. This is due to the fact that I'm using a test auction on Gurley for the demo purposes. This is also the reason why for the estimated profitability time, we display that it will likely not be profitable at all. Usually we would show a timer that indicates when the auction is turning profitable, meaning when the auction price will fall below market price, and we calculate that based on the step and cut parameter from the Abacus contract for this collateral type. Then there are the important indicators on transaction gross profit and transaction net profit. meaning the profit after transaction fees. Here we display the combined transaction fees. This means that we consider whether the required authorization steps for the wallet have been made already. And if not, they are basically included together with the fees for the actual execution in the end, of course. Speaking of the general steps that a user needs to make in order to execute the final auction transaction, we recently introduced this panel-based approach that you can see here. With this approach, we really want to guide the user throughout the whole flow, give hints on what step needs to be executed next, and what currently is preventing auction participation. So as a simple example, if I now disconnect my wallet here, you can see that this expandable or that this panel is basically expanded, giving the hint to the user that no wallet is connected currently. If I now quickly reconnect my wallet, everything is looking good. Same for the two authorization transactions that are needed. They have been executed for this wallet in the past, and that's why they are checked. If one of the steps would miss, this panel would be expanded as well with another alert notification to the user that he needs to authorize first in order to finally execute the auction transaction. Now, the only alert that we are currently showing is that the transaction gross profit is negative. This is also why we prevent auction execution, because an execution with a negative transaction gross profit would result in a reverted error. Now let's turn back to the previous page and look at the other flow to actually participate in an auction. Bidding on an auction with own DAI funds was actually the feature that we were lacking in order to have feature parity with the old liquidation portal. And now that we have introduced this feature, the old liquidation portal is deprecated, and it already redirects to the unified auctions UI that we can see here. So looking into this bidding with own DAI flow, it basically follows the similar design pattern that we have for the flash loan based auction participation flow. However, of course, we have different interaction possibilities for the user. Again, at the top, we have general information on the auction, and then the most important interaction piece is handled via this input field here, where the user is able to specify the amount in DAI he wants to bid on the collateral. The maximum amount to bid is set via the tap parameter, which is basically the debt that needs to be recovered by this auction. And it can always be set by the user via clicking this link. It's also the bid amount that is pre-filled by default. But then as user, I'm able to specify an amount I want to bid, and I will get an indication on the amount to receive of the collateral down here. We also cover different edge cases via this input field. As you can see here, there is a minimum leftover based on the just parameter, meaning that the user is not able to specify a bid amount that is slightly under the maximum bid, because then the auction would result in a leftover that is basically lower than the minimum leftover, and it would be an auction that is no longer attractive. We can try that out, specifying the input amount here to 52K, and we display also in this tooltip here that this value can only be less than the maximum bid minus the minimum leftover, which is these 47.5K that is indicated here, or actually the maximum bid. So I will go with the maximum bid for now to look at the other elements of this flow. Again, we have our panel-based approach that guides the user throughout the whole flow, and it also checks whether all of the pre-requirements to finally bid on the auction are successfully fulfilled. This is the case for the wallet at hand. It also covers the two authorization steps that we already know from the flash loan based auction participation. What's an additional prerequisite here is that there is a sufficient DAI amount deposited to the VAT, and this is covered via this panel here. So you can see here the figures, DAI amount in the wallet at hand, the amount of DAI that is already deposited to the VAT. This, in this case right now, is enough in order to cover the bit that is specified here. Otherwise, the user would be notified via a red message here saying that more DAI needs to be deposited first in order to place that bit. The whole interaction with the VAT, so depositing and withdrawal DAI to and from the VAT, is facilitated via the pop-up that you can see here. Same approach down here with the panel-based design. A user is able to specify the amount that needs to be deposited to the VAT. If this amount exceeds the amount of DAI that is actually available in the wallet, depositing is disabled and the user is notified why that is. In this case, there is no sufficient amount of DAI present in the connected wallet to do this transaction. Same holds true for the withdrawal. Exactly. Then the last part of this whole flow, once a user has placed a successful bid, obtained some of the collateral or all of it via this auction, the user is able to withdraw this collateral from the VAT to the wallet via the button down here. In the case at hand, I have participated with this wallet in previous auctions. So, for example, I would be able now to withdraw 1.05 ETH from the VAT to the wallet at hand. As a last remark, a user is always able to manage the DAI in the VAT via the pop-up I just showed. It's also accessible via the header. So there is no reliance on an active auction. This can be done at any time by the user. Same holds true for the withdrawal of collaterals from the VAT to the wallet. It's facilitated via the pop-up that you can see here, where the user is able to withdraw collateral from the VAT. The user is also able via this pop-up to pre-authorize certain collateral types, for example, to use low gas prices when there is no active auction. You might wonder why we display here certain collateral types that are already off-boarded. This is true, but due to the fact that we are not hard coding the collateral types, but fetching them automatically from the Chainlock contract. So this is it for an overview on the current state of the Unified Auctions UI. Feel free to give feedback. It's always welcome. I hope you're still sticking with me because as a last agenda point, I quickly want to jump into our repository and give you a sneak peek on the Keeper implementation that we have done. Our Keeper implementation can be found within our open source repository, Unified Auctions UI. The main idea from the beginning was to have this modular approach with a folder that actually contains the core logic and can serve both the UI that I just demonstrated, but also the Keeper implementation, which can be found in the bot folder. I'm not going to spin up the Keeper now as part of this demo, but refer to the README of this folder, where all of the information on how to set up the bot and what environment variables can be set in order to configure the bot can be found. To quickly walk through, we are currently only supporting an Fura project ID, but actively working on the support for custom RPC URLs as well. Then one needs to specify the Ethereum network the bot will run on. One can whitelist certain collateral types. An operator is also able to specify the max priority fee that is passed, the refetching interval for the bot to fetch the auctions, and then besides a private key, an operator also has to specify the minimum net profit of an auction before the keeper will actually bid on it. With that said, thanks for listening. Now is really the end of this demo. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. Feedback is welcome as always. And yeah, happy to answer your questions now live in the call. Thanks again.